Hawks Nation, what is going on? Welcome to another episode of the HawksFanTV podcast. I'm your host, Mac, joined by my co-host, Alex. And we are pretty excited to bring you this episode because the Hawks are actually on a two-game winning streak. And we were just saying off air how nice it is to record after a win because it's just the vibes are so much higher. So, obviously we beat the kind of the lowly Wizards over the weekend, but took down the highly, if you will, Oklahoma City Thunder last night, 141 to 138. That final score isn't necessarily indicative of how sound of a win it was for the Hawks as well. I know people are going to look at that and be like, oh, that game was pretty close. Honestly, it really wasn't. The Thunder kind of pulled away at the end there and made it a little bit closer, but obviously the Hawks pulled away with the win. And you know how I can say that it was a sound win? It was a game that we started the game 11-0 and we never trailed the entire time. So it sounds like a pretty sound win to me in the NBA. So I'm feeling pretty good. Two straight wins after four straight losses, and it's a new year, man. So I got to feel good about it, right? So how are you feeling, Alex?
Yeah, same here, Mac. I mean, it was a rough stretch for a little bit, but hey, we won on the last day of 2023. We turned the page into 2024, and now we finished, or we started exactly how we finished the year, and that's off a W. So wins nowadays are hard to come by, Mac, and I'm sure for all you listeners out there and other Hawks fans, you feel the same way. So hey, when you're under 500 as much as we've been all season, we'll take any win we can get. And like I said in the HFTV spaces that we do on Twitter, I mean, hey, last year was last year. All we can do now is start the year and try to rack up as many wins and hopefully wipe away our sins that we committed in 2023. So, hey, new year, new team possibly, question mark. So that's what I'm hoping for. And things are good, man. We beat a great team last night, second seed in the West in OKC. And they're the real deal, man. I honestly thought the beginning part of their season was maybe a little fluky. I thought after like the first 10 or 15 games, they'd kind of come back down to earth, but they're still racking up a lot of wins. 30 plus games into the season, they are still the second seed in the West. So that's a good team win. Granted, it was off a back-to-back, but hey, we won. Back-to-backs are part of the league, and we still beat a solid team, so can't complain.
No, yeah, I completely agree with you. They're obviously one of the better teams in the league at this point, and could very well finish as a top two or three seed in the West, which is year and year, one of the probably the tougher conference, of our lifetime at least. So, but the win, it gave me the optimism that I was hoping 2024 would bring because there were so many good things about the win, and that was honestly. I know there was a lot of tweets, including from the account last night and myself as well. But Jalen Johnson, man, Jalen Johnson, what a stud!
JJ.
What an absolute stud, man! Career high 28 points last night, another 7 boards as well, and just making play after play after play on both ends of the floor, which is exactly what the Hawks need, is someone who can actually legitimately play both ends of the floor. And man, some of those dunks, like I went to bed dreaming of them, man. Like the one where he caught it coming down the lane. No, the one where he took it the entire court down the
Hmm.
lane and just yammed on him, man. It was quite a play. So I'm and he also had two quick fouls. So honestly, when he had the two quick fouls, I'll be honest, I was like, dang, I mean, he's had a hot start, but he may end up getting a little bit of foul trouble. They may be a little schematic on that end for the Thunder, but he ended up having obviously the best night of his career. Trey said it in the post game presser as well. Like he's just gonna have career nights for the rest of the season. Like 28 points will be something in the distant past of a career high in points here in the next few months with Jalen. So just so many good things to like. I mean, Bogi, had 14 points in 9 minutes off the bench and had another incredible night just to kind of solidify his argument at this point in the season for sixth man of the year. Which, I mean, I know we're a little biased here in the South, but I think at this point he does have probably one of, if not the strongest argument for sixth man of the year. I know Austin Reeves is the favorite right now, and that's just what's going to happen when you're an LA Laker. Like I get that, but if the numbers don't lie, Bogi is putting up quite a year for a six man. So, and DeJounte was throwing 30-foot lobs and playing well when Trey was on the bench and doing what normally he does, which is kind of heat up in the second half and get a quick 10 points in the third quarter, 10, 12 points, something like that when Trey's on the bench. So it was just nice, man. And my last note, Trent Forrest with some clutch buckets and great defense on SGA at the end. So honestly, man, it was just there's so many things to like about it. Just so many things.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you hit the nail on the head with the whole Jalen thing, right? Like Jalen, career night, he came off a career night on New Year's Eve against the Wizards, scoring 24 points. He follows up that performance with 28 buckets. And man, he was doing a little bit of everything. We saw like the complete game, and what a lot of Hawks fans are hopeful for is like he is a dynamic two-way player. Like he can score, he can get out in transition, he can lead the fast break, he can pass, he can defend, he can get steals, he can throw alley-oops with his passing ability. So he's just like a jack of all trades, and we've been saying it for a few weeks now. Like he is arguably the second most impactful player on the team when you factor in his offense and his defensive ability. And we said it on a show maybe a week or two ago when he was still injured. But like when you look at our team, you have all these other players that are specialized in maybe one role, right? That's like Clint for rebounding. Then you got Trey and DeJounte for extra playmaking and passing. You have, Onyeka for his versatile defense, but none of those players can do all of those things in one, and Jalen Johnson is that. I mean, he filled up the stat sheet last night, 28 points, 7 rebounds, 4 steals, 3 assists. So he was doing it all, man. And like you said, he got into early foul trouble. So he was actually the only starter that didn't play 30 plus minutes last night, but he still logged 28 points and all those other stats. So he played a great game, had a couple of monstrous dunks in that first half, especially, most notably on Chet with that poster. I've been rewatching Jalen highlights like literally all morning, Mac. I keep rewatching the same highlight reel, and I just watch different YouTube videos of just Jalen Johnson clips. And yeah, it makes me happy, and I like doing things that make me happy. And watching Jalen Johnson makes me happy. And I advise every other Hawks fan out there that if you want to find some happiness in your life, you got to watch some Jalen Johnson highlights, especially after a win. He was doing it all, man. And Bogi, yeah, you hit it on with Bogi, dude. Like he was in a slump, I guess you could say, and I'll cut him some slack just because he kind of carried our offense in Jalen's absence. And we lost a few games because of his poor shooting. Now, of course, it wasn't all on Bogi, but he kind of went in a slump in a really bad time. But he followed that up last night, hit 5 threes off the bench, scored 20 plus points, just like he's been doing for a majority of the season. And like you said it. Bogi, 6th man of the year candidate, man. Like he is the front runner, in my opinion. If you look at every major statistical category, most points off the bench, most threes off the bench, most three-pointers off the bench, he leads the league and all of that. So when you factor in his scoring ability, his efficiency, and just his microwave scoring that's needed off the bench that every team needs, he's literally number one in every single one of those categories. So he is making a strong, strong campaign for that 6th man of the year. Hopefully he keeps it up with his knees and everything, and hopefully he doesn't get a little fatigued towards the end of the season. But we need this Bogi for the rest of the season, man. And while we're on the topic of awards, I'll end it with this. Bogi, 6th man of the year, Jalen Johnson, most improved player, right? And I was doing some research earlier today. You have to play 65 games to be eligible for MIP, much like 6th man of the award. Any major award, you had to play at least 65 games. They increased that from last year. So with Jalen missing that month span during his wrist injury, he lost a lot of those games. So now he only has 3 games available that he can miss from now until the end of the season in order to qualify for that MIP award. So hopefully, we all pray, and hopefully Jalen becomes healthy and doesn't get hurt any significant injuries from now until the end of the season, because I really, really would love Jalen to continue this streak, because if he stays healthy, he's on the court, he's going to keep doing what he's doing, man. And I'm slowly starting to see other media pages, other reporters around the league actually start to take notice of Jalen Johnson. So I think more people are starting to hear the name, more people are starting to see his highlights reels. and he's balling, man. So those are the two big awards that I'm pushing for. Obviously, Trey should make an All-Star. Trey should make a All-NBA, but I want to show some love to some of the role players. And I feel bad even saying role players because I genuinely feel like Jalen at his peak could be like, second or third best player on this team. He's going to be a future star. Bogi, this late into his career, he's sixth man of the year. So it would be quite the awesome gift for us, for an Atlanta fan, because we don't really get many awards because for whatever reason, the general media is super biased towards us. But man, it would be a hell of a season, even if we, didn't make it far in the playoffs. If our two guys can get those awards, that would be dope. And if Lauri Markkanen, who plays in Utah, the Mormon capital of the world, can win a damn MIP, there's no reason why a Hawks player can't win it. There we go. My rant is over.
I love it. I love it. I love it. You got my vote, man. You got my vote.
Absolutely.
But yeah, no, to kind of strengthen the case for Jalen's MIP or most improved player, MIP may mean a little something different to those who got in trouble in our younger years.
Right. Luckily, I never got an MIP. Thank God.
No comment. So last season, Jalen, and look, man, I'm gonna go ahead and point out that obviously this season he's gotten a huge increase in minutes per game. So obviously, naturally, some of these stats were gonna go up, but to me, it's the percentages, and I'm gonna go over them. Like he is the most improved player. It's not even close. Okay, so he had 5.6 points per game last year. Up to this year so far, he's got 15.3. I'm going to make the very strong argument that 15.3 is going to probably be as high as maybe even 18 by the end of the season. He's gonna keep scoring at a higher clip. He's proved that. Literally 4 rebounds a game per game last year. 8.1 this year. Went ahead and doubled that. So here's his shooting percentages from last year: 28.8 from three, 62.8 from the free throw line, and 49.1 overall. So now this year it's 41.5 from three, 79.2 from free throw, and 59.6 overall. What, like, come on, dude. Like, that is such an improvement. The minutes per game, I understand that. That's going to make the points go up, the rebounds go up, the assists go up. I understand that. You're out there longer. If you are a good player, you're going to get more stats. It's the percentages, man. Come on. Like, those are crazy jumps, especially the 3-point percentage in my mind. Yeah, like those are crazy jumps in my mind. So I think at this point, if Jalen doesn't win, or at least is a finalist for most improved player, especially Bogi was 6th man at that. Like if those two dudes aren't at least finalists, it goes all the way back. I'm telling you, Alex, I looked this up because I was so tired of this national media bias against the city of Atlanta. It goes back to 1996 when the little old city of Atlanta got awarded the Summer Olympics, and all these other cities in the country that wanted it, that were bigger at the time, thought they deserved it more. And apparently since then, there's been this really, really obvious national negative bias against the city of Atlanta. So you know what? I'll call it out too, man. You went on your rant, I'll go on mine. I'm calling it out. It's got enough because we've hardly even mentioned Trae Young in this episode yet. And Trae Young does not get nearly the amount of respect that he does. We've had countless episodes about it. We don't even need to do that right now because we got other dudes on the team that need more respect. So it's just wild to me that that's something that, what is that? Almost 30 years ago at this point that they're still doing to us. Because some of these reporters, man, I get, the Woody Pages of the world are the old guys still doing it, the Bill Plaschkes. But I mean, there's a lot of guys our age, man, where it's like, come on, dude, like you were a child, a baby when that was happening. Like, stop it. Quit acting like you care.
I completely agree, man. The national hate to Atlanta is sickening. It makes me sick to my stomach. They hate us because they ain't us, man. We're the hip hop capital of the world. We're the Hollywood of the South. We set the culture for a lot of the popular things in the U.S. So, hey, man, we're the strip club capital of the world. We got a lot of things. Chicken wing capital of the world. So, yeah, man, the people are jealous of how great Atlanta is, and they hate us because they ain't us. Simple as that.
Simple as that, man. Simple as that. Couldn't agree more. So yeah, man, we will we'll wrap up the recap of the Thunder game on this, and that's that's borderline elite team that we beat with an elite player in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Like I think that dude is actually ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, man, there were so many pieces on the Thunder that just kind of I was like, oh my gosh. Like I will admit, I haven't watched a ton of Thunder games this year so far. So, watching them the full game last night, because we played them in November before and it was early November at that. So, I mean, it's kind of hard to get a feel on a team at that point in the season. But man, like Cason Wallace was nasty, honestly. Like he was hitting some big shots, some big threes. And I did really want Cason Wallace out of the draft, but he went to we picked 15th, so it's not like we could have even gotten him anyway. So but yeah, no, an elite, borderline elite team that we beat last night that should, and I'm hoping gives not only fans but the team themselves, the players themselves, some level of I don't want to use the word hope because I know players don't use hope because they're professional athletes. They're not hoping that they win. They're going to go out there and prepare. What's your 4 Ps? What is it? What is it, Alex?
Yeah, it's the 6 Ps, right? Piss poor, or hold on, it's piss poor preparation. Fuck, I haven't used this piss poor preparation. Oh no, this is what it is. All right, the 6 Ps in life. All right, I'm just gonna put everyone on game here. Proper planning prevents piss poor performance. Proper planning prevents piss poor performance. The 6 Ps.
Exactly. So the 6 Ps, as Alex was just saying, I know athletes, they don't hope, they go by the 6 Ps. They're like, we're going to properly plan and we're going to go out there and, not have a piss poor performance. So, but I think, it's something where, never trailing against a team that good. I don't know. It's got to give you the right mindset of that you can go with the best. I think I saw some stat. I wish I would have wrote it down, but it was some stat along the lines of something where like the Hawks have had a double-digit lead in like the highest percentage of their games out of any team in the league, which I mean a double-digit lead at some point in the game, the highest percentage of games they've played out of any team in the league, which really that shows that like, look, at the end of the day, we obviously don't even have a winning record. We're 5 games below 500, but we can clearly at some point in the game run with the best of them and even get up at a high point, so or a large margin rather. So I don't know, it's it's a stat that's encouraging if your team was 5 games over 500 instead of below 500, but it at least shows me that we do have a pretty solid squad and maybe some changes are going to be made, Alex. I don't know. That's kind of what we'll talk about next here. So, the Hawks at this point, I think I even saw a tweet from Woj saying that they're definitely open for business at the moment. So, don't be surprised if a move is made. And, there's some potential trades that we've seen out there. Obviously the Siakam one, but I don't think we've actually seen like what pieces would necessarily be included in that one just yet. But there's the other one in the Brent Grimes, Evan Fournier, 2 draft picks for DeJounte Murray to the Knicks.
Brent Grimes. I
Uh,
didn't know a Falcons player played on
God. Oh
played on
God,
the
yeah.
Knicks. Quentin Grimes.
Yeah, Quentin Grimes. Sorry, guys. Sorry. I had football on the brain a little bit too. But yeah, that one I gotta admit, I don't know how I feel about that one, but we'll get into it. So how do you feel about these potential trades so far, Alex?
Yeah, like I'm still on the Pascal hype train. I think he does a lot of good things that could help this team. And if we actually did package up like DeAndre Hunter and AJ Griffin, maybe a future first round pick to get someone like Pascal Siakam, we can move him at the power forward spot, move Jalen to the 3, and that adds a lot more versatility on just the wings in our front court. So I get the whole concern about, oh, is he going to resign? Is he just going to walk in free agency? He's going to be a rental, Alex, this and that. I've heard it all and I get it. But hey, if we can acquire Pascal before the deadline and, we go on a nice little win streak and, make a nice little playoff push, then I think, winning cures all and, we'll have the cap space to afford him. So we'll see what happens. That's probably the trade I'm most likely in favor of. The whole thing for DeJounte Murray and, for Quentin Grimes and Evan Fournier and 2 future firsts. No, absolutely not. Because, yeah, I don't think that helps this team. I think this actually makes this team worse. And unless our front office is mastering some crazy plan and, leveraging those two future first round picks for another like all-star caliber player, then sure, but I highly doubt that's going to happen. So I rather just take the safe conservative route and just get Pascal Siakam and let's call it that. So yeah, I mean, I think trades do need to be made. Woj made a tweet yesterday about how he was doing a Q&A. A fellow Hawks fan asked him, hey, are Hawks going to be buyers or sellers at the deadline? He didn't answer whether it was going to be buyers or sellers. All he said was they were going to be very active during the deadline. And Landry Fields is determined to make a move and reconstruct this roster. So, from our standpoint, that's good. And right now, any change is good change, in my opinion. Like, we're 5 games under 500. We haven't started the season off the way we wanted to. Dre is dealing with some injuries. AJ's had some personal issues. Sadiq Bey has been overly underwhelming, to start the season. So yeah, man, I'm ready to move some pieces, shake some things up. And insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So let's iterate the roster, make some changes. I'm fully on board with moving DeAndre Hunter because I think, the time has come. We're probably a year overdue, but the time has come. We need to trade Dre, trade AJ Griffin, possibly if it nets us a really good player, maybe even think about trading Onyeka, get Sadiq Bey off this team. So yeah, man, I think we got a few moving pieces and hopefully our front office delivers.
Yeah. No, man, I couldn't agree more. It does feel good to get that team win last night, but I don't want that to be interpreted as I don't think any changes should be made because I'm right there with you where changes most definitely should be made. I think there's clearly some untouchable players on the team at this point. I think Trey and Jalen most notably. But other than that, I don't know. I think probably everybody else isn't necessarily untouchable. But I think the whole idea of being a buyer or seller, I think at this point, being the 5 games under 500, you really have to look at this roster and some of the key pieces of it and the coaching staff and the first season of this coaching staff and the new scheme and everything. I know they got, what was it? I think about 20 games with Quinn last year, but still, this is still the first full season of Quinn. I think you really have to kind of look in the mirror and be like, should we be selling or, should we be buying, right? So, but I also kind of interpreted Woj's tweet, the end of it about Landry Fields wanting to make a move here as that, Landry's a young GM, and I don't think it's, hard to, I don't want to, assume anything or speculate, but like, he's a young GM. He wants to prove that he can do this, right? Like, he wants to say like, hey, I can actually build a championship contending roster. And, it's January 4th and my team's 5 games under 500. I think I've clearly haven't done that for this season to this point. So I wouldn't be surprised if a decently big move is made in that we acquire Pascal Siakam and a DeJounte Murray or someone of that stature is included in the return package or whatever it may be, right? So I like one of my notes on the Siakam trade is just in all caps, make it happen, because I think that's a guy that, as you said, I understand the whole rental aspect, but there's been a few guys. I think DeJounte was a rental guy, right? And we re-signed him. So the whole idea of a player not re-signing in Atlanta with a Trae Young to throw him lobs over and over again and go to, as you said, all the strip clubs and chicken wings he could ever want. I don't know. It's I wouldn't be worried of him not re-signing. I guess that's what I'm getting at, all jokes aside. So yeah, man, I think a trade definitely needs to happen. But I think it's time will tell whether it's a large or small trade and whether we're the ones selling or we're the ones buying, because I think the Grimes and Fournier and the draft picks trade, I kind of view that as us selling, right? And I think the Siakam trade is more of us buying, right? So I think time will tell.
Like if we do end up trading DeJounte for a similar package like you just listed, then that clearly means like they've given up on this season, right? They've given up on the season. We're selling. Now we're just trying to recoup some assets for future moves, and that I don't think that's the right direction. The Pascal thing that would indicate we're more buying because that's more of a win now type of move. And right now with how compressed the standings are, like Yeah, I know we started the season off really poorly. Like we're 14 and 19, we're still 5 games under 500. But like the Nets, who are the ninth seed, they're 15 and 20. They've been on a 5 game losing streak. The Knicks and Cavs, Magic and Pacers, they all pretty much have the same record at 19 wins. We're only 5 games behind them. And we still have, 49-ish games left to go, literally 49-ish left games to go. So a lot can happen from now until the end of the season. A lot of room can be made up in those 49 games. Players can get hurt on opposing teams, and people can just go in funks and slumps, and they start losing, like what we're seeing with the Nets and other teams like that. So, look, when you have Trae Young as your cornerstone, now you have the emergence of Jalen Johnson. Bogey's playing some of the best ball of his career. You need to capitalize. Like we have a couple of really, really good pieces, and we need to iterate and try to salvage what's left of this season because we still can salvage it. As crazy as that sounds, but we're not going to do it with this current roster. It's just not. We can be hopeful and pray and wish and things like that, but we've seen it time and time again. It's just not going to work. So let's make the changes sooner rather than later, so we're not in the same exact position as we were the past 2 years. So Landry, if you can hear this, make some changes. Ultimately, I know it takes two teams to tango. Like, both sides have to agree. So, I want to emphasize like at the last summer, we were trying really hard to trade DeAndre Hunter and we were trying hard to trade AJ Griffin, but ultimately the other party didn't agree. So I commend our front office for at least trying. But look, let's keep trying. Let's keep pushing. Landry, you need to use your Ivy League negotiation skills and just get a deal done, man. Get a deal done. Try to upgrade at the 3 or the 4. Get rid of DeAndre Hunter, AJ Griffin, Sadiq Bey, possibly Onyeka or Clint, and let's improve this roster. There's a lot of time still left, and Trey's playing his best ball of his career. Jalen's emerging as a superstar. Bogey's playing the best ball of his career. A lot of good things are happening in the midst of this kind of turmoil-esque season, or what seems to be like turmoil. We can still make up a lot of ground, man. Like 5 through 10 right now is still relatively close. So let's make a push and let's get it done, man.
Oh yeah, no, I couldn't agree more, man. I think you nailed everything on the head. So I'll leave it at that. And you mentioned the Orlando Magic as one of those teams ahead of us. So a nice little segue into what we'll wrap the episode up on is that's just a preview of our next 2 games against the Pacers and the Magic, both on the road. The Magic have lost 8 of their last 11 games, so they are on a little bit of a free fall here. So the teams above us, I guess, because you mentioned the Nets as well. There's some of them that are are not doing too hot right now, so we could definitely make some ground on them pretty quickly even. Pacers a little bit different. They won 5 straight, but so did the Oklahoma City Thunder, and we beat them. And I was trying to look up the stat, and it was taking me forever. I couldn't find it actually, but I know it's happened a handful of times in the last couple seasons. But the Hawks are like they're a streak ender. Like we have ended so many streaks for teams where it'll be like an 11-game win streak, a 7-game win streak. Last night, 5-game win streak. So I don't know, just cool that we were able to do that. So but yeah, no, like I said, we'll wrap the episode up on that. I think the Pacers game we could easily win. They're not a team that I necessarily fear, and that's because of their horrendous defense. They're somehow a team, at this point in the season. I know we're picking it up a little bit, but they're somehow a team this point in the season is worse at defense than the Atlanta Hawks, and that's
Yeah.
that's the Indiana Pacers. So I can easily see us winning that one, and like I just mentioned, the Magic are on such a little free fall right now that honestly we could definitely sneak into Orlando and get that one as well. So I won't predict anything because I feel like every time I do that I end up jinxing us. So I'm not going to predict anything, but I think we should do pretty well in both those games. So we'll wrap it up on that though. So as always, thank you guys for the support of the podcast and the account in general. Be sure to follow us at Instagram and Twitter at HawksFanTV. Check out all of our articles at HawksFanTV.com as well. That's where you'll find some cool content as well. And yeah, guys, just be looking out for more. And hopefully these episodes, the vibes continue to be high because the Hawks continue to win. So we'll see what happens.
Yes,
But
sir.
as always, go Hawks, baby.
Go Hawks. Thanks for listening.